Chapter 1. The Beginning of the Journey. Jack had always dreamed of having a successful career. He wanted to work hard, improve himself, and one day reach the top. But success does not come easily. It requires practice, effort, training, patience, and persistence. Jack knew this, but he never imagined how difficult his journey would be. After finishing school, Jack started looking for a job. He sent many applications and waited for replies. Some companies rejected him, and others did not answer at all. He felt frustrated, but did not give up. Every day, he checked his emails, made phone calls, and applied to more jobs. One day, he finally received a call from a big company. They invited him for an interview. Jack was excited, but also nervous. He knew he needed to prepare well. So, he spent hours practicing common interview questions, reading about the company, and thinking about how to impress the employer. The day of the interview arrived. Jack wore his best suit and went to the office. He tried to stay calm, but his hands were shaking. The interview was tough. The manager asked difficult questions, and Jack struggled to answer some of them. However, he remained confident and showed his determination. A few days later, he received the good news. He got the job. Jack was overjoyed. He thought his journey to success had begun, but he did not know that the real challenge was just starting. Chapter 2. The Struggles of a New Job. On his first day, Jack arrived early. He wanted to make a good impression. His boss introduced him to the team and explained his responsibilities. The work seemed simple at first, but soon Jack realized it was much harder than he expected. He had to learn new skills quickly, and the tasks required a lot of effort and focus. Sometimes he made mistakes, and his boss corrected him. Jack felt stressed because he wanted to do everything perfectly. His co-workers were not very friendly. Some were helpful, but others ignored him. A few even laughed at his mistakes. Jack felt discouraged, but he reminded himself that every job is difficult in the beginning. Every day, he faced new challenges. The workload was heavy, and he had to stay late at the office to finish his tasks. His body felt exhausted, but he knew that hard work and persistence were the keys to success. One night, he returned home and looked at himself in the mirror. His face looked tired, and his hands were shaking from all the typing and writing he had done at work. He sighed and thought, "Maybe this job is not for me." But then he remembered his father's words, "Success is not easy. You must keep trying, learning, and improving." The road to success is full of struggles, but in the end, it is worth it. Jack took a deep breath and made a decision. He would not quit. Instead, he would work harder, train himself every day, and prove that he deserved to be there. Chapter 3. Learning and Improving. Jack started practicing every day. He arrived early at work and stayed late to learn new things. He asked his boss and co-workers for advice, even when some of them ignored him. He also spent time training himself outside of work. He read books, watched online courses, and practiced his skills. He repeated tasks over and over again until he became better. At first, he still made mistakes, but over time, he improved. His boss noticed his progress and started to trust him more. His co-workers, who once ignored him, began to see his dedication. However, the job was still tough. The workload increased, and sometimes Jack felt like he could not handle it. He felt overwhelmed, but he reminded himself that every challenge was a step toward success. Some days, he wanted to give up. The pressure was too much, and his body was always exhausted. But then, he would remember why he started. He wanted to succeed. He wanted to prove to himself and everyone else that he could do it. So, he kept going. Persistence, effort, practice, and patience became his daily routine. Chapter 4. Gaining Respect. After several months, Jack's hard work began to show. He was completing his tasks faster, making fewer mistakes, and even helping others. His boss was impressed and gave him more responsibilities. Jack started feeling more confident. He no longer felt like a newcomer. His co-workers, who once ignored him, now asked him for help. Some even became his friends. One day, his boss called him into his office. Jack was nervous. He thought he had made a mistake. But instead, his boss smiled and said, "Jack, I've been watching your progress. You've improved a lot. I want to give you a promotion." Jack could not believe it. A promotion? After just a few months? It was a small step, but to him it meant everything. It was proof that his hard work and persistence were paying off. He thanked his boss and promised to continue working hard. That night, he went home and looked at himself in the mirror again. This time, he did not see a tired, struggling employee. He saw a man who was growing, learning, and succeeding. But he knew that this was just the beginning. Chapter 5. Rising to the top. Years passed, and Jack continued his journey. With every new role, he faced new challenges, but he tackled them with the same determination and persistence. He went from a junior employee to a team leader. Then he became a department manager. His reputation in the company grew. People respected him not just because of his position, but because they knew how much effort and practice he had put into his work. One day, his boss, the same man who had hired him years ago, called him into his office again. Jack was now used to these meetings, but this time something was different. His boss smiled and said, "Jack, I am retiring. We need someone to take my place as director, and we believe you are the right person for the job." Jack was speechless. Director? Him? The same man who had once struggled with simple tasks? The same man who had been ignored and laughed at by his co-workers? He had come so far. From a nervous young employee to the head of the company. That night, he stood in front of the mirror once more. He smiled and thought about his journey. Every challenge, struggle, training, effort, and practice had led him here. He had proven that hard work and persistence could turn dreams into reality. He was no longer just an employee. He was a leader. And his journey was just beginning. Moral of the story: success is not given. It is earned through effort, practice, persistence, training, and patience. No matter how difficult the road, those who keep going will always find success in the end.